36 governors races. 36 governors races. You got Phil Scott, who's running against Brenda Siegel. Phil Scott is the current Vermont governor. Phil Scott is the current Vermont governor, and he says he doesn't let his party define him. He defines himself, and the only reason he's a Republican, or the main reason he's a Republican, is because he's a fiscal conservative, which is interesting, and it's smart. Phil Scott seems to be laid back, and he's been a governor there for freaking 12 years or some shit, and it's a liberal, it's New England, right? So if you have a conservative Republican who's been running a New England state, you should pay attention to him. Here's a little bit of the Phil Scott and the Brenda Siegel debate, Vermont public. Take a look.
It was somewhat tailored the same way. A smaller market, smaller number of producers, and smaller number of herd. So it did work, but people have to be willing to buy that at a higher cost. And we'll see how this works with our cannabis market as well.
Thank you. And Brenda Siegel, same question too. So our dairy industry is part of the fabric of Vermont, and it's really true that we need to make sure that our dairy farmers are at the table and we're asking them what they need, and that's informing our decisions. But we also have to remember that our dairy farmers and our dairy farms are not just commodities for Vermont. They are people that are part of the fabric of our economy. They are human beings who are losing their life's work and generational land, and we have to focus on how we...
I was impressed when she talked about generational land. Typically, you don't hear the Democrats talk about the family farm, which why not? Why not? The biggest question I got for Brenda Siegel is, do you believe in the Bill of Rights? Because a lot of these, liberal, left-wing Democrat big government types, they just want the government to dictate to everybody what to do and what to, how to be. And I think you can be both for the people and for social spending and for the Bill of Rights, called left libertarianism. As a left libertarian, I have a perfect balance between the two. You had Phil Scott, who was sitting there talking about the dairy feed and machinery. They're talking about the price of feed and machinery are going up for the farmers. That's the kind of, talk we want to hear. So Brenda Siegel, I like that she's talking about protect multi-generational small family farms. I just don't think she has that, it factor. She doesn't have that it factor. Let's listen to some more Brenda Siegel. Now, you're going to have, apparently she's for defund the police. So I like that. And defund the police, when they asked her about it, all she did was define it. Oh, you didn't know what defund the police means? No, the whole movement. No, you can't define what defund the police means. Yes, the ideal is, take the police budget down to zero if the police are no good, if they're just a bunch of gang-banging criminal sons of bitches. We don't need that. We don't need police who are just going around hurting people. Now, if they're actually protecting and serving people, well, that's different. But Brenda Siegel had defined it, and I just want to mention this, and then we'll listen to whatever she's talking about here. I just want to give you a sense of how that, and then I'll do a couple more clips here. Well, okay, no, Brenda Siegel. Do you still defund the police? You want to go back on that? You want to do a U-turn? Phil Scott asked the question, do you want to defund the police? No. The whole idea of defund the police is, instead of calling the police out for every single goddamn thing, make sure the police handle the violent crime. The police handle the violent crime. No, we're not going to call a crackhead. We're going to call the police for violent crime. Now, if there's a mental health situation, Christian Glass, he got shot and fucking murdered. These Christians, I'm thinking about if Christ dying on the cross was, such a huge deal, then anybody getting shot and killed would be a huge deal, right? Christian Glass is a 22-year-old that got shot and killed in Colorado. What was his crime? His crime was calling the police. There was some road rage incident. Somebody was behind him. They were trying to push him off the road. He pulled on the side of the road. He said he was chasing them for a little bit. Eventually, he pulls off to the side. He pulls off the interstate. He pulls into a small town, and he pulls off to a side of the road. Fucking fatal mistake right there. He pulled off to the side of the road, and he got stuck on a little rock. All he needed was a cop or a good Samaritan or somebody just to kind of push him on. his merry way. He was just stuck on a little rock. And instead of the police coming and pushing him on his merry way, instead, they made fun of him. They said, oh, you're little Crystal. They fucking talked to him. They're creepy as shit. They're trying to look for, shit inside the car, just getting right up against him because they want to put their hands on him. They had already determined beforehand that they were going to use violence. And then they already spent a whole 10 minutes on the situation. The guy got bored and he's like, we need to move this night along. And how do you move this night along? Well, you shoot and murder Christian Glass. We didn't need the fucking police to do that shit. All we needed was a push bar. And then we also needed somebody that realized he just needs to talk to a mental health expert. What the fuck is the matter with you piles of shit? God damn. And then there's also substance abuse. So the whole idea of defund the police is send the police out for just the violent crime. And then for the mental health situations, for the domestic violence situations, violence or maybe domestic situations, sometimes you just need a social worker. How about send a cop and a social worker out to every single fucking thing? Sometimes you need a professional. Sometimes you need some muscle. Hell, you need them both, right? Well, a good cop is a good lawyer and a good lawyer is a good cop. Print it. So there is a suicide epidemic, and there is, drugs are a big issue, and then there's homelessness. So what's a police officer going to do about homelessness? Oh, you don't have a home, huh? You want me punch him? He don't even have a home. That's not a crime, but he's just sitting out here in front of everybody. He's allowed to exist, but he's all dirty. Don't you feel a little bit bad? I used to, and then I just started hating them for making me feel bad. Why do you make me feel bad, you mother? Law and order isn't enough. Okay, Brenda Siegel said law and order isn't enough.
The ones who want to transition to another type of farming, into that type of farming, and the ones who want to stay in that industry to help support them in doing things like paying higher wages, making sure that people they bring to work on their farms can access housing in our state, and supporting a stronger industry in that way. And yes, it would be great for them to be working with our small farms because we really have a lot of small farms across the state, and we have to do it in a way that is sustainable.
So Brenda said all that about defund the police, and actually Phil Scott seemed to have no fucking idea about what the whole idea of defund the police is. You still believe in defund the police? You know, at the end goal of communism is with Marxism, there's this whole idea that you get a capitalist society, and it gets bigger, and then the communists, the socialists get into government, and then once they get into government and redistribute all the wealth, then they get rid of the government, and then we all just live happily ever after. So the end, step number four to Marxism, step number 4, they say communism is perfect socialism, but perfect communism is anarchism. So communism and anarchism, it's weird that the right and the left, the extreme right and the extreme left is agreeing on so many things. It's almost, can the center even hold? Can the falcon even hear the falconer? So let's talk about all the notes that I have here. Phil Scott, let's see here, doesn't let the party define him. I think he's an impressive Republican. Vermont public, great debate. I don't know if you noticed, but on the amount of views, you got, 22 likes, including my like there, but you also got, a whole 726 views? Holy moly, that was 5 days ago. So when America goes around bombing and, destroying things in the name of freedom and democracy, you probably should ask a question or two. The damn election is 3 weeks out. You just had a major fucking debate, Vermont, with your fucking governor. They talked about so many different policies. Who is this moderator? Who is this Brenda? Who is these people talking to the king of Vermont? And who's trying to get into the head of the king of Vermont, trying to make him look foolish and trying to trip him up and trying to say, hey, you didn't do this right and you didn't do that right. He's been running Vermont for, 12 fucking years. You like the way the Vermont is? Keep him in there, right? I think Vermont has legalized marijuana, so it's the good one. You got the one state, and then the other one's like upside down, right? New Hampshire, the live free or die state. They haven't even legalized marijuana. They're like, live free or die. Should we legalize weed? Whoa, hold on. This whole live free or die talk, we got to rein it back in. At marijuana, maybe at, goddamn meth or motherfucking crocodile or devil's breath. Great conversation, fantastic conversation. When they were talking about the legislature, apparently because he's a governor and Vermont's a liberal Democratic state, the legislature has to run by 2/3 majority. So if Vermont wants anything to get done, they have to not just get a majority, but they got to get a super majority, 66, 0.7%, 2/3 legislature. And then essentially that tells me that the governor, he's got his ideas and he's going to, keep on steering the ship and maintaining the course and keep on going the straight line. But how many things? They're basically pulling the governor along. They're pulling the governor along, and then he vetoes shit, right? So you'll get a majority who likes it, like the clean heat standard. So you'll get a majority of the legislature who likes it, which is hard to do. And then because he vetoes it, now it goes back to the legislature, and they got to get a super majority. If you had a Democrat in there, then the Democrats would essentially get every single majority passed, everything that the legislative majority passes. So it seems like, I don't know, what would we do if we just let the Democrats run Vermont, for 4 years? I don't know. Brenda doesn't seem like she has that it quality. I think she's got an uphill battle. I think Phil Scott is well beloved and well loved. He is entrenched. The incumbency is entrenched. I think she did a kick-ass job. I think she did a fantastic job there. And it was a great conversation. That's exactly what I needed. I needed this conversation. So thank you, Vermont. They're talking about Canada, harm reduction, a big point of contention between Phil Scott and Brenda. What's her name? Damn, that's awful. Brenda Siegel. Brenda Siegel and Phil Scott, a major point of contention. I didn't see anybody. I guess marijuana is already legal. So where can you go next, right? Legalize all the drugs or what? Brenda Siegel was talking about having these overdose prevention sites. And that's interesting, right? Are you passing out, injection needles? And there is something, I like her idea of a mobile overdose prevention, not a site. The rural, public, in tiny counties, you don't need to institutionalize injection sites. But if you had a mobile, some sort of mobile anti-drug or pro-injection site, I would be nervous. If I was a freaking meth head, I wouldn't want to go to a safe injection site because it's the fucking government. But they're saying that it actually works because they clean up the area and they allow people to talk to professionals and other stuff. So if it's mobile, right, then it doesn't seem, it's not being institutionalized. It's coming into town. That sounds better to me. But she was defending safe injection sites and he was against it. He was saying no, to curb opioid epidemic is how it was couched. But why would you curb the opioid epidemic? People are in pain, and Oxycontin was one of the best opioids out there. Whatever happened to all those Oxycontins? Fentanyl. Go after distribution points. That's what he wants to do. That's his mentality. So Phil Scott is clamping down on the, war on drugs. And he's like, no, we got to go after fentanyl next, go after the distribution points, go after the distributors. They mentioned about experimenting. He's like, why experiment? Go with what has worked, And he's saying, he keeps on calling Vermont a rural state. I'm sure they got a city or two in Vermont in that Mount Pellier. Mount Pellier, isn't that a city? Mount Pellier. So you have what? Should we bring mobile units? Should we bring a bunch of heroin needles in by RV? Should we allow a guy in an RV drive from town to town with heroin needles, passing them out to everybody? I like the idea of harm reduction. You can't really... He thinks it's just about enforcement. Just enforce it better. And she's thinking outside that box. Harm reduction. So, Phil Scott, what happens to harm reduction, right? Are you working on harm reduction? Because frankly, as Americans, we have a right to our own bodies, so you can't really do anything when it comes to what people want to do. You're drinking bleach, okay, that's not good. You're just going to drink bleach and then inspire others to drink bleach, and then you're just going to keel over right there, huh? Well, that's no good. I don't want that to happen. So if you're going to do that, drink bleach over there, and maybe drink a little bit less bleach. And what's going on? Is something going on? Do you want to talk about it? That's kind of where Brenda's coming from. Brenda also had a nephew who had died, apparently from some overdose, and something about a brother or something too. So that's big. And in a way, she's kind of putting her nephew, she's kind of using the bloody shirt of the nephew and putting it at the floor of Phil Scott. And Phil Scott was like, look, because the question that she had asked him, they both could have asked each other questions. He was like, do you still believe in defund the police? And she was like, do you think my nephew and brother's life, you think their lives were worth saving? And he was like, obviously, every life is precious. So that's good. Some of these pro-lifers actually don't believe that every life is precious. All lives matter? Yeah, okay, let me see it. All lives matter. Yeah, I'm sure you really believe that. No to legalizing small amounts. So he doesn't even want to legalize small amounts. And then he compared, she lost a nephew to an overdose, and that's unfortunate. And he had said that he lost a cousin just yesterday who died due to cancer. And so I guess in a way, Phil Scott is saying, hey, shite happens. Shite happens is what he was trying to say. Shite, I think. Shite happens. Oh, what a bunch of bullshit. That's a bunch of bullshit. They're talking about a cannabis market, so it's legal there. Organic dairy. Should they do something with I don't know, but Phil Scott also had another question, okay? So you're all about defunding the police, okay, Mrs. Brenda, defund the police, Siegel. What do you think about how you going to pay for all this stuff? So apparently Brenda Siegel, and I got a little comment that I'm going to make on this, but Brenda Siegel, she wants to do a whole bunch of things. Phil Scott asked her, how are you going to pay for all your programs? Paid family leave, child care, universal school meals, and universal primary care. And housing. The housing, Phil Scott said that's $100 million. Family paid leave, that's another $100 million. Child care, $100 million. Universal school meals, and all family paid leave and universal school meals together are $100 million. And then universal primary care is $200 million. He's like, that's $500 million. How are you going to come up with $500 million in order to implement your plan? Now, Brenda, she answers the question. He's going to come back, though. Brenda answers with this. Brenda says, we're actually spending a shit ton of money, I'm paraphrasing, a shit ton of money right now. She's saying that the average cost per homelessness right now costs our society $35,000. We have 3,000 homeless people. 3,000 homeless people. What's that cost our society? $35,000. We could put them in a house a lot cheaper. And then she also pointed out the health care. The healthcare, it's costing our people $6.5 billion in healthcare cost. And then housing. When you have housing, right, they got to use and then there's there's residual effects, and then there's strategic. Brenda Siegel talked about strategic investments, child care. She said that the big thing, I like this argument. We invest in child care because we need a workforce. If both parents are having to take care of the kids, then nobody is out there working. Somebody's got to get out there to go work. And by providing childcare, that frees up the mother or father to go and work. And then the opioids, she said that cost Vermont $2 billion, nearly $2 billion in 2017. So she's kind of saying that the current status quo is costing the Vermonters a shit ton of money. And she's absolutely right about that. But Phil Scott comes back and says, well, good point, touche. But again, you still need $100 million. You can't just, poof, there it is. And then there's 100. Where are you going to come up with the money? And I didn't really hear her answer. Something about hotels, maybe? Something about investing. Or no, she was criticizing their They were investing in hotels, and she said strategic investments. That's when she came back with, we need strategic investments. That's what we need. I think strategic investments, that's not going to bring $100 million. What she should say is just buy, some stock in McDonald's and Walmart. Buy some stocks, buy some mutual funds there. The mutual funds will just make money on its own. That'll help the economy. And maybe try to get into some industries, start a corporation, make their own money. The government should make their own money. Try to keep everything on the up and up. Try to keep, the business, community, climate, make sure it's all fair and what have you. So organic dairy. And then, interesting that Phil Scott is basically, by asking that question, he's admitting that Vermont doesn't have paid family leave. Vermont doesn't have universal school meals. Vermont doesn't have housing for everybody or universal primary care or child care for everybody. So he's kind of, they don't have those programs at least. But I guess he would argue that the free market is going to figure it all out. Look, I'm just going to leave it up to the free market. Now, apparently, Phil Scott had tried to make it to where you couldn't be evicted and that nobody was living on the streets. But Brenda had said that's the opposite. That's in Vermont, people were being evicted. People were living on the streets. So Let's see here. Phil Scott is a veto man. Phil Scott is a Republican, but not a huge Republican. He's not like, I think on abortion, he might be liberal on abortion. Basically, he's pro-leadership, not mandate. He don't want to mandate everybody, tell everybody else how they got to live their lives. He wants to lead by example, lead by argument. I like that line. He's for leadership, non-mandates. He vetoed the clean heat standard, whatever the hell that is. Brenda started off really good in the beginning. She was talking about electric cars cannot save us all. Not everybody can afford an electric car. I can't afford an electric car. She can't. Nobody can afford. Who the hell can afford an electric car? Well, we could just save the planet. How? Everybody buy electric cars. If we all buy electric cars, well, that'll save the planet. She was talking about the farms doing carbon sequestration. Carbon sequestration. So the last point I want to make, if I had a state, let's just go to Idaho. Okay, if Idaho was to go ahead and legalize marijuana and implement universal basic income and have ranked choice voting, Idaho would be the best goddamn fucking state on the planet. That's all they need. Legalize weed, ranked choice voting, universal basic income. Ranked choice voting guarantees the republic, the democratic, the democracy is the best presidential system that they got. UBI stops poverty, but it also puts $10,000, $20,000 in every person's pocket or bank account so they can spend it as they see fit. Therefore, it's good for capitalism. Everybody's got $10,000 to $20,000, and we solved fucking poverty. So, hey, what'd you do with your damn $10,000, $20,000? I cannot. You're sleeping on the street. What'd you do with your damn check, asshole? It should wipe out homelessness. Should wipe out poverty. Might be a little bit of inflation, but actually having a system, we're a capitalist nation, and if let's just say we pass out $10,000 to our citizens once every 10 years. $10,000 once every 10 years. That's hardly anything. That's hardly nothing. But that would keep the system going forever. That keeps the capitalist system that gives you plenty of money. The people's got the money. There's no poverty. There's no homelessness. All that fucking crap that's associated with poverty and homelessness. You just cleaned up the streets and you gave people an opportunity. UBI, ranked choice voting, legalize marijuana because we got a right to our own body and we believe in freedom. That would be the greatest goddamn state. Idaho, you implement those three initiatives, you got the greatest fucking state on the planet. Now, conservatives don't like change. They don't like progressing. They don't want to go forward. Progressives, in turn, because the conservatives are basically haters, progressives are lovers, and they, in turn, love everything. So why is Brenda sitting there promising all these pie in the sky? She might try to get all these programs. And you know what? I understand. I like all these programs in general too. It's a quick sort of rule of thumb for Social Security. If a person's for Social Security, then they're for social spending, and they're for the elderly, and they're kind of aligned with my values, at least when it comes to the government being I'm pro social spending. And so, but Social Security is a fucking mess. I don't even know if I'm going to get Social Security when I get up there. And then UBI is Social Security for everybody. So for the people, there's a liberal argument that says, what, you're going to get rid of the Social Security checks? What about those people? They'll be fine. If anything, they might get 2 fucking checks in the goddamn mail. But I'm just wondering, how come they get a fucking check and they're not like, hey, shouldn't everybody else get a check? But I guess when you're 67, it's like, I earned this. I mean, you did make it up there. Good for you. You survived that long. But instead of waiting to be 65 to get a check, what if we, made it to where you're 55 or 45? How about something like that? Then you could retire in your 40s, and then you're still not, bankrupting the system. The whole idea of Social Security works because you only got you have everybody, all the workers are just spending all their damn money for a tiny percentage of the population. That's why Social Security has been working, but it's not going to work because the baby boomers was a big old fucking bubble, and then the baby boomers, the millennials, they're an even bigger fucking bubble, and that big ass bubble is going to break Social Security. It's going to break Social Security. You're not going to have enough working class people paying enough Social Security taxes to take care of all those millennials when they get to be 67. But it is the most popular program. It's also how America pays for most of its, fucking deficit and debts and shit. It's like, how about I give you, all right, China. No, we need $1 billion. What if we give you Social Security? If we give you Social Security, we give us $1 billion. If we give you Social Security as collateral. So they basically borrow off of Social Security, use Social Security to do this and do that. They take Social Security and roll the dice on it. And on Wall Street, they gamble with Social Security. So, as much as I would rather, if I lived in Vermont, I'd vote for Brenda Siegel, hands down. I'd vote for change. Phil Scott's been in there fucking forever. He's nice, he's impressive. Marijuana's already legal there. So really the only thing that they need to do, since it's already legal, is just get ranked choice voting and universal basic income. They got 2 major policy planks. And UBI, I think throwing a bunch of money at the thing does fucking help the thing. So UBI, I think, actually helps the whole person. Give people a check. Let them spend their money however the hell they want to spend it. Instead of saying, okay, here's money for childcare, here's money for family paid leave, here's money for universal school meals, and then another government program, and then the housing and universal primary care. How many programs are out there? I don't know about, I'm pretty well informed, but I don't take any of the damn fucking money. There's no programs that are really for me. And so I guarantee you there's like fucking right-wing conservative assholes that's taking fucking Social Security and taking all this socialistic... What's my point? My point is, if Brenda Siegel doesn't win, maybe if she just ran on UBI, maybe that would be better. If she doesn't win, maybe just run on UBI and ranked choice voting. That's what Andrew Yang's whole thing is. That's why I feel like I'm an Andrew Yangist. He just simplified the whole fucking thing. The whole thing is simple. We got a perfect democracy, perfect capitalist democracy. That's the fucking point, right? That's what we're exporting all over the world. That's the end of, history, the end of history, because liberalism has succeeded. What is liberalism? Not communism, and, not totalitarian, royalist, fucking dictatorship. It's democracy and it's capitalism. That's where we're at. Got 2 turntables and a microphone. It's where we're at. Got 2 turntables and a microphone. Let's finish off the last minute with just go right here to 38:53. Lauren Boebert slips up over President Biden remark in awkward speech.
Significantly understaffed in law enforcement. The state police are down in record numbers. We know Burlington, Richmond, Shelburne, Montpelier, and Brattleboro, I checked, and many others are understaffed and struggling to hire. Many in law enforcement cite morale as one of the biggest challenges. As someone like yourself who has advocated for defunding the police, do you think it's time to admit you were wrong and invest more in law enforcement to make our communities safer?
So what always that meant was funding police to do the work that police do, and funding social workers and people who work on substance use disorder and our communities to do what they do. That's always what that meant. Unfortunately, Republican talking points brought it to another realm, but what we do need to do right now is make sure that we are both supporting access to treatment for the root cause and supporting the police in what they need. And regardless, in Brattleboro, we do have a police chief, Chief Norma Hardy, who is working extremely hard, has been able to attract some police officers.